Good morning. Welcome back to Planet Doug Behind the Scenes for Sunday, September 24th. It's almost 9 o'clock in the morning, a bit later than usual, and I'm actually feeling a little bit tired. It's kind of weird how that happens. I'm a terrible napper. I can never nap in the afternoon as a rule. Even if I'm really tired, I can never do it. But yesterday, for some reason, I did. I turned the lights out, closed the curtains, put in earplugs, as if I really was going to bed, and then I managed to sleep for a couple hours. But that kind of has a weird boomerang effect because I felt so much better after the nap. But then I couldn't go to sleep at night. So I was up to like 1 in the morning because I got so much sleep during the afternoon, and then it just sort of snowballs. And now I'm actually really tired the next day because I took a nap yesterday. So it kind of defeats the purpose in a way. I had a really good night, lots of energy during the night, but now I'm exhausted. Red eyes. Yeah, sore throat. Yeah. And I'm still in Port Dixon, which means I don't have any travel stories to tell. I just have typical Planet Doug trivia of my life. And I think while it's fresh in my mind, or relatively fresh, I'll start with the story of my credit card fiasco, which is over now, but it went on for far longer than it was supposed to or it needed to. Just to recap, when I was in Sumatra, my credit card was being used by someone in Toronto for DoorDash deliveries. So there was credit card fraud. So I went through a long procedure in Sumatra where I had to phone my bank and then tell them about what is going on. And of course, the first thing they did was cancel that credit card, and they said they would send out a new one. So I get it. They cancel the old card. The old number is invalid. Nobody can use it anymore, not even me, which is the problem there. The criminals can't use it, but I can't use it either. And then they're going to send out a new one. So I have to wait for that, and it eventually arrived, and I got the new number, the new security codes, the new expiration date, all of that. And then that was here, while I've been in Malaysia. I finally got all of that. And then one morning I gathered up my courage because I find these experiences so exhausting. I gathered up all of my documents and my courage, and early in the morning, when I was still feeling relatively fresh, I made the call, and I called my bank in Canada, and I got through to an agent. It's a bit weird because my bank does have an automated system. Like, even when you call them, you have the very first thing you have to do is enter your credit card number, and that directs your call to the appropriate department or the appropriate person. So I enter in the new credit card number, and the computer knows it's not activated yet. So the computer goes, oh, this card needs to be activated. And the easiest way, the best way to do that is through our award-winning online app, which I would love to do because then I wouldn't have to communicate with a human being. But when I go into the online app, they have to send me a security code for the activation, and the only way they'll do it is to use the computer to make a physical phone call to my home phone number, to a landline. It won't go to a mobile phone, it has to go to the landline, and someone has to answer the phone. The computer tells them the code. And that would work, of course, if I was on the other side of the planet in Canada, sitting beside that phone. But I'm not. I'm sitting here. So this award-winning online app activation service, I can't use it. So I have to call them. And then it says, if you can't, if you don't want to do that, you don't want to use the app, then you can use our automated voice system. So stay on the line and we will direct your call to the automated system. And I'm like, yes, so I can do an automated system on the phone. So I'm waiting to speak to the computer again and just give them a couple of bits of information or press the numbers they want me to press, and I'll be all done. I was pretty happy. But then the phone line clicked, and it was a human being. So they said they were taking me to the automated system, but instead my call ended up going to an agent. And I was disappointed about that, but this agent was, in my opinion, Canadian, born and raised, perfect English, easily understandable. I didn't have any trouble with my internet connection for the phone call. Everything went smoothly. I mean, it was a relatively long process. I had to give her quite a few pieces of information. I mean, when I was in Sumatra making this call, they asked for a total of 10 separate pieces of security info before they would even let me report the fraud. This time it wasn't that bad, but I had to give them a lot of information to confirm my identity. So I went through all of that, and then she says, okay, your credit card has been activated. And she reminded me that I would now have to go to all the companies that use my credit card online and update my records on all my online accounts, which is a big chore in itself. She reminded me of that, and I thought our conversation was over, but then she started in on obviously a prepared script trying to sell me one of the bank's products. It was some kind of an insurance package. And normally, of course, at the first opportunity, I did do this. At the first opportunity, when there was a break in her speech, I stopped her and says, I'm really not interested in this. No, thank you. I'm not interested. No, thank you. Because I want the phone call to be over. It's not like it's a pleasure for me to be stuck on the phone talking to, an agent from the bank. I'm done with my business. The card's been activated. I want nothing more to do with this situation. Just let me go. But then she kept going with her pitch. If you sit, I'm sure they're following a script. It says, if the customer says no at this point, do this. And then she goes off on this other direction, talking about the product and why I should get it and all the benefits it has for me. And this went on for what felt like forever. I think it was about 10 minutes. But basically, my bank, once they had me on the phone, held me captive with a 10-minute long commercial for trying to sell me one of their products. The woman was really insistent because she told me it was at no cost to me. I could get this and it would be at no cost to me, but again, I don't know that. I'm not in the mood. I don't know what she's talking about. What I could figure out about this product, it was some sort of an insurance thing that covered your bank and your credit card. And it had no reason to be of any use to me with my lifestyle. This sort of insurance is of no use to me at all. So I told her again, no, I'm not interested. And I don't want to deal with this right now. That's what I told her. I'm not in the mood. I don't want to think about this, whether I want it or don't want it, what it means at this point. No, I'm not prepared to say yes or no to this, even if it's free. No, thank you. And then she went on more after that. And in a normal situation with a company just cold calling you, you would just hang up on them. It's like, no, thank you. And you hang up on them, or you don't answer your phone at all, which is what I do. But in this case, I wasn't sure whether our business was completed. It's really important for me to get that credit card activated. So I didn't want to hang up on her. I wanted our call to end officially, just to make sure that everything was done. And of course, she holds my life in her hands, right, with my whole credit card thing. And I did not want to upset her. I did not want to make an enemy out of this woman. She's probably being paid by commission how many of these insurance packages she can unload on customers. And I'm a customer saying no, and who knows, she could take revenge on me easily. She has the power of the computer at her fingertips. So I basically listened to her entire speech, and I just kept saying no thank you, no thank you, no thank you, until finally she was willing to accept my no as a no, and we ended the conversation. But then, nothing changed. The credit card had been activated, but when I went to my online app, I go into my banking account, it's not there. Only the old credit card number is still there with a big, sign on it saying, this card has been deactivated and is no longer valid, and a new card has been sent out to you. And that's it. The new credit card just wasn't there. So I thought, okay, it's going to take a couple hours, take a few minutes, couple hours for this to happen. So I waited for a couple of days actually. And then I went back and I looked on my online app. Not there, still not there. And I thought, oh, maybe it doesn't need to be there, but maybe the card is still valid. So I went into one of my online accounts, where I use the credit card, and I went into the, profile and the settings, and I was going to update my payment method and put in the new credit card number, but it was rejected. They said this is not a valid credit card number. So obviously, even though I had phoned the bank and they had activated it, it wasn't activated. So during this time, I was, busy with my own life, doing my own things. And then day after day, periodically, I would just go online and check my online app, my account, and see whether the new card showed up. And a week went by, still nothing. So heaving a big internal sigh, I have no choice but to try to do it again. I went back to the online app and tried to use, the automated system. I thought maybe I could turn on another security system where they don't have to phone my landline back in Canada. But there was nothing. There was no option other than for them to call that phone. And there's nothing I can do because I can't answer that phone. So I got all set up again and made the call. Same thing, as soon as I connected, it said, enter your credit card number now, followed by the pound key, the usual system. So I do that, and then the computer said again, oh, this is a new credit card, and it has to be activated. And the best way to do it is use our award-winning app. They told me about their award-winning app and their award-winning customer service over and over again. Every time I was on hold, I have to listen to them talk about that. But of course, I can't use that. So then they said, well, stay on the line and your call will go into our automated activation system. I thought, okay, I'm going to end up talking to an agent again. But this time, it did send me to the automated system, which again was kind of weird because at this point, I wanted to talk to a human being. The first time I didn't want to. They said automated, and I'm like, yes, I don't have to talk to a human. But this time, something weird was going on, right? The card had been activated, clearly, and yet it wasn't working. So I wanted to talk to a human being about this problem. This was a human being problem, not a computer automated system problem. So I wanted kind of to talk to a human, but this time they did send me to the automated system and said, okay, this is the bank's automated activation system. Please enter this information followed by the pound key. Now enter this information followed by the pound key. Now this, now this, now this. I went through all the long security procedures, and at the end, they said something, the computer said something like, okay, your credit card has been activated and is ready to use. Please update all of your accounts with the new information. Thank you for using our services and our award-winning customer service, da 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 da. And then the computer cut off the line. The computer hung up on me. So, oh, okay, my card had now been activated. No, of course not. I wait a couple hours, I go online, I check my account. Nope, credit card's not there. I wait. I've lost track of the days, to be honest. I have no idea how long this has been going on. I waited a while, waited a number of days. I kept checking, waiting for it to take effect, and it didn't happen. So, all right. Tried to use the credit card number again, online accounts, and again, it was rejected as being an invalid credit card number. So I've got no choice. And this time I want to talk to a human, and I'm hoping to get an agent. But again, when I call the number, this is the number they send you for a new credit card. And I called that number again, and it said all the same things and said, we will send you to the automated system. And they did again. I was sent through the automated system. At no point was there an option, like if you would like to speak to a a human being, press 2. That never ever came up. It was never an option. It was straight to the automated system, and that's it. And again, I went through the whole procedure with the computer, and then it said, your new card has been activated and is ready to use. Hung up on me. But no, again, it didn't work. I checked online, credit card wasn't there, credit card wouldn't work, it was still an invalid number. So I'd had enough of that approach, so I thought what I need to do is talk to a human being. So I found my bank's regular customer service line that I can call from overseas. Like if you're outside of Canada, they have a toll-free number inside Canada and a different number if you're outside Canada. So I tracked that number down, hoping to get into a different computer system, not the automated update, the automated activation system. So I got that number, and it starts the same way, please enter your credit card number, and told me all the usual, and the hashtag, and then we will send you to our automated system. Like even then, every single time, the computer could tell instantly that this card needed to be activated, and it said it was going to send me to the automated system. I couldn't get out of that loop, apparently. But then I found myself on hold this time. I was never on hold before. All these calls luckily went through really quickly because I was talking to a computer, right? When I was in Sumatra, I was on hold for hours because I was waiting for a human being. This time, because it was all computers, the computer can handle more calls than a human can, right? So there was no waiting time. But this time I was suddenly on hold. And while I was on hold, a computer came on and said, you qualify for a $2,000 increase in your credit limit. If you would like to accept this, press 1. So I sat there thinking, like, well, what's the harm in that? You want to give me a higher credit card limit? Okay, sure. I'm never going to get my credit card that high, trust me, but why not? So I hit 1, and congratulations, your credit card limit has been increased by $2,000. And then the computer went away. And then to my happiness, I was then connected with an agent. But this time, it was clearly not a born and raised in Canada Canadian. At least this woman's command of English was not like a native speaker of English. I had trouble understanding her. Her English was good enough, but her demeanor, her manner of speaking, everything about her was wrong and unpleasant. When I was dealing with the first agent, the very professional one, it was very professional. But this woman, wherever she was, I assume, of course, we all assume they're in India, but they could be in many countries around the world. She kept heaving these heavy sighs and making all these vocalizations, because she had to do things on the computer. And it was just sort of like, welcome to, the bank, and who am I speaking? Who am I speaking to today, sir? So I give her my full name as it is recorded, my full name, middle name, last name. I'm speaking loud and clearly because I know this is all security related. I've got to give her my name. I give her my name, and you can hear all this background noise, all of her sighs, all of her vocalizations, the noise of her on the keyboard. And I tell her my name, and what can I do for you today, sir? And I go into this whole song and dance, which I always have to do in my life. I'm constantly telling people stories that are completely unbelievable. Who calls their bank? I think I did it, how many times did I do it? 4 times? And activate your credit card 3 or 4 times successfully, and yet the card is never activated. That makes no sense at all. And of course, what that usually in that situation, it means the person made a mistake. Systems are not generally that unreliable. If someone tells you a story that is completely unbelievable, usually it is unbelievable and it's not true. So of course, here I am telling this woman this story that, yeah, I got a new credit card number, and I spoke to an agent and she activated it for me, but it didn't work. Then I called again and activated it. It didn't work. I called again. It didn't work. I called again. It did not work. And so you can just sort of almost hear her mentally. It's like, oh yeah, okay, here we go. I'm going to have to, help this lunatic out. But first, she had to confirm my identity before she could do anything for me. She heard my story, but now she had to confirm that I am me. And she had to ask me all the security questions. And out of nowhere, she came up with one that I had never heard before in my life. She said, and sir, after all the other security ID, what is your one-word verifier? And I'm stumped. Like, my one-word verifier? I have no idea what you're talking about. I've never heard of this. It has never come up in my entire lifetime. I have no memory of choosing a one-word verifier. I wouldn't know where to go to look to find out. I honestly have no idea what this is. But my brain is ticking over and I'm thinking, okay, if I had to choose and they gave me a list to choose from or different this, that, like what could it possibly be? And I came up with something. I thought, well, if I was going to choose one in that situation, I probably would have ended up with this one. And I said, I think it's, and I gave the word, and she says, yes, that's correct, sir. And I'm like, yeah. I mean, it's just like shot in the dark. And I knew my one-word verifier, even though I had no memory of ever having one or choosing one. And I had no basis on which to figure it out, but shot in the dark, and I got it right, my one-word verifier. So that was a lucky break. And then she went into my computer account, and she could see that I had activated the card. She says, oh, yes, I can see here, sir, that you activated it on this date, and then you did it again on this date, and this date, and this date. And it was all there in the system, according to her. And then she says, yeah, but there appears to be a glitch. That you never want to hear that from your bank. I mean, you're watching The Matrix. If there's a glitch, that means everybody dies, right? There's a glitch in the Matrix. So you're talking to your bank and you've tried to do something 3 or 4 times and they say, oh, there appears to be a glitch. Even though you've activated it successfully multiple times, it didn't work. And she said, oh, just, give me a minute. Oh, I skipped by another annoying thing about her. During the identity, like establishing the security procedure, she asked me for my name again, which confused me because at first I didn't understand what she said. She wanted to, what is your first name, last name? And she said it so quickly with her accent, I didn't know what she said. And sir, what is your first last name? I'm like, sorry, what did you say? She heaved a sigh. What is your first last name? And I'm like, I'm sorry, I still didn't understand what you said. And then she finally, first name, last name, sir. And I'm like, all right, Pitbull there, just back off a little bit. I honestly didn't hear what you said. She was a terrible, terrible bank agent, whoever she was. And then it's like, oh, okay. Then even though I'd already given her my full first name, last name, earlier, and she's looking at my account, but anyway, she has to confirm it, okay. So I give her, the information she's asking for. And then we moved on to the one-word verifier. It was just, oh man, my life, my life. But then, she said, there's a glitch, and it didn't work. So let me see if I can clear this up. And whatever she was doing, I could hear her, I don't know, I don't think she was smacking gum, but if she were smacking gum, I would have heard it because I heard all her sighs and and I hear all the typing on the keyboard, all the stuff going on. And then she finally comes back and speaks to me directly and says, oh, your card has been activated, sir. Somehow or other, she cleared up the log jam in the system and said, would you please check on your online account to confirm? And I'm like, oh, it's going to happen that fast, okay? But now, of course, I'm talking to her on, on one phone, And now I'm like, okay, how in the world am I going to check my online account? I said, well, I'm going to have to, it's going to take me a minute to do this. I have to log in, right? And I guess I don't want to log in on this phone. So I'm grabbing my other phone. This is the one I would normally use to log in anyway, because it has biometrics set up on it and everything. This one doesn't. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna have to do this 2-phone operation here, and I think I have to put one phone down, and I'm trying not to do that. And so I had to switch hands because for biometrics, I kind of need it in my right hand. So I'm like, all right, I'm switching. You're still there? You're still there? Yes, I'm still here, sir. So now I'm trying to, turn on my phone, enter my code to turn on the phone, and I'm trying to like one hand, I'm trying to log on to my bank with the biometrics. And I got it done, and I looked, and there it was. New credit card was like on my account. And the message about my card being deactivated was gone. So whatever this rather unpleasant woman had done, the pit bull, at least she got it done. She fixed the problem, and she asked me, as the agents are all trained, to ask, do you have any other questions for me today, sir? And I did have a question. Actually, I had 2 questions. Unfortunately, I forgot about the second one. But I had one question I wanted to know. Like, I explained to her that I do a fair amount of traveling. That means I'm in other countries a lot. I'm trying not to betray the fact that I'm never in Canada, because I think if the bank knew that, they would cancel everything right away. So it's kind of a secret, I guess. It might be okay. I don't know. But I don't want to mess around with that. So I'm sort of talking about how, I'm pretending I'm like some kind of a business traveler. I'm in Canada, then I go to all these other countries. And in every country, I get a brand new phone number, a mobile phone number with a SIM card from that country. And then when I go to a new country, I get a new number. And I asked her, can I use that international mobile phone number on my bank account? Like, can you send me security codes to that number? I kind of knew what the answer was, but I wasn't positive. And she says, no, sir, it has to be a Canadian phone number. So I had other questions for her, but that was the only one I could think of at the time. And I said, oh, thank you very much. And thank you for your help. You saved my life here by activating the number for me, all the polite things. And then we said goodbye and hung up. And after weeks and so many phone calls, so much stress and frustration, I finally have a working credit card number once again. Anyway, that was a relief. And that is hopefully the end of that story for a long time to come. In a previous video, I was talking a little bit about my perception of how daily life changed when I moved from Sumatra back to Malaysia here in Port Dixon. And at that time, one thing I said was I was missing the easy availability of food in Sumatra. Like, no matter where you were, inside town, outside town, wherever, there was like sort of breakfast foods and snacks available everywhere. Partially because you have so many food stalls, right, just everywhere on the streets. But then you get the guys with the motorcycles, and they have a big box on the back, and in that box they can make, any food you want, satay padang, bubur ayam, mie, they can make all kinds of dishes. You get coffee, snacks, fried foods, whatever. So even if you're way out in the middle of nowhere, just wait long enough, and some guy on a motorcycle is gonna go by, and you're like, hey, and he pulls up, and you can get food. And here where I am, because I'm about 4 kilometers outside of downtown Port Dixon, 3 or 4 kilometers, something like that. There's nothing out here. I'm on kind of a strip mall, and there's a highway out there and the ocean. There isn't a whole lot out here, I thought. However, in the time that I've been here, I've gotten to know this neighborhood quite a bit better. And the longer you stay anywhere, of course, the more you appreciate it. And there's all kinds of really good restaurants for me all up and down this area. I keep walking around this neighborhood, of course, and the more I do, the more little restaurants I uncover. There's no motorcycles roaring around, delivering food that way or bringing them right to you. But right beside this hotel, there's like a buffet restaurant. Just my favorite, all-time favorite restaurant. If you had to have lunch every day at a restaurant, that's the kind of place I like. You don't have to have, there's no confusion, there's no complex procedures to deal with. They just have a big table just covered in, aluminum or like stainless steel tubs with lids on them, and you just go down the lineup and like, oh, there's that, and there's that, and there's, you just get a plate, put rice on your plate, and then you just go down the line and just take all the food you want, sit down at a table, and then a woman comes to your table, looks at what you've selected, and there it is. At first, I didn't know that restaurant was there. Maybe they were closed for a while, but I concluded that they only opened on the weekend, because this area gets very busy on the weekend, but it's very quiet during the week. The only people who stay in this hotel during the week are like workers who are on the road. There's a lot of like refineries and industrial operations near here, connected with the shipping, like big ships out there filling up with gas and oil or whatever it is these big ships do. But then you get a lot of people doing work for these big corporations, and they're on the road and they're doing something here, or they might have a conference here or a meeting or a training seminar, whatever, and then they need a place to stay for a few nights, as they're on the road for their company, and they would stay in a hotel like this because it's near all of these industrial sites. This isn't, but on the weekend, the whole hotel just is full, because then you get all the weekend visitors from Kuala Lumpur. And it seemed to me that this restaurant, the one I really like, would only open on the weekend when there's more people. But this past week, it's been open every day, so during the week as well. So that was amazing. So I've been able to get really good meals there. And then up the road, there's a laundromat and like a typical neighborhood convenience store. But then there's a 99 store. It's like a bigger grocery store that I discovered. There's a, barbershops. So I got a little bit of a haircut. I didn't get my hair as short as I wanted. I'm curious if other people have this experience as well. Like, I take a long time between haircuts because I kind of dread the experience. So I just let my hair grow and grow and grow until it's completely out of control and I have no choice. And I finally get the energy to go get a haircut. And basically, I want a big change, like just cut it all off, make it short, and then I can start all over again. But once in a while, that message doesn't get across. So when I got my hair cut this time, the guy cut all the hair kind of around the lower and the back was short, but then he left it really long on top, right? Longer than I want. But do you tell someone that? Because the barber, he said, okay, I'm finished. What do you think? And then it looked okay when I looked in the mirror, but what I always do, I kind of run my fingers through my hair, it's like, and the first thing is like, oh, no, it's too long. I actually wanted it shorter than this, because I'm gonna have to get this cut again very soon because it's gonna get too long again. So I wanted it shorter, but the guy had worked so hard to make it look like this. At that point, what am I gonna tell him? He says, oh, is it okay, sir? Like, what do I say? Do I say, well, no, do it again? Like, oh, I want it shorter on top. It feels like if I wanted it that short, it was my mistake that I didn't accurately convey what it was I wanted. I showed him a picture. I actually got pictures on my phone of previous haircuts at the length I wanted, and I showed those to him, because words aren't very good at describing these things. I said, okay, like, basically like this, I showed him pictures. So at least he knows I don't want a mohawk, and I don't want fades, and I don't want letters etched into my skull. I just want this. And I showed him a picture, and he looked at it, and he says, oh, so not short, you want medium. And I was like, well, like, I never know. Like, if you say short, you might end up with a buzz cut, like you've just gotten in the army, zing, and I didn't want that. So it depends on what he means by short or medium, right? And what do I mean by short and medium? But I showed him the picture, and again, I said, well, I'm not really sure short or medium, but if this to you is medium, then I want medium, but like kind of like this. So I wasn't quite sure what to say. But we had this conversation, and then he finished, and it wasn't short enough. But I never say that. Like, if I don't really care what I look like. I don't really care about the haircut, the hairstyle, you know, but I do want it cut short enough that I don't have to get a haircut for a long time. And in this case, it wasn't short enough, but I just told him, "Oh, it's great. Oh, it's amazing. I look so much better," you know, which was true. I looked a lot better when I looked in the mirror. But then when I left, I was like, yeah, I really, you know. But I do wonder, do other people do that? If you get a haircut and the guy's all done, and then do you say, "Oh, no, can you make it shorter?" I don't. I just let it go, right? Anyway. So I got it. So there's a barbershop here, 2 of them, in fact. And there is a bakery. I discovered it the other day. There's a bakery, a local family bakery there. And the other day I got, you know, a whole assortment of like chicken curry puffs. They were amazing. Donuts and some kaya something or other. All these baked goods, you know. So I got a big, you know, the curry puffs were amazing. So that was good. And there's a restaurant, like more of a sit-down, nice restaurant on this side of the hotel. And I still have not had a single meal there because it's more of an evening restaurant. And I'm just not in the mood for a big meal at night like that. I'll have a big meal mid-afternoon, and that's my one meal of the day. And this is more of a nighttime restaurant, and I just haven't gotten around to it, but that option is there. They make Western food and, you know, Malay food and Chinese, you know, they got a huge menu. You can get steak and, you know, whatever it is you want. There's a restaurant there. I haven't been there yet. So what I'm saying is there are a lot more food options here than I realized, and I'm really happy with this neighborhood now. So yeah, I'm fine being way out here. But funny thing, the differences, like I said, between Sumatra and Malaysia, I was talking about the food availability. But one thing I noticed going into the shops here, there are usually, not always, but usually prices on the products. And I really like that. It's just a little trivial detail of life, you know. It's kind of a pet peeve of mine, you know, but in a place like Sumatra, you go into the stores, there aren't prices anywhere. You have no idea what anything costs because there are no prices. And you basically have to take your product to the front, you know, whether it's a desk or whatever, and the guy might just know how much it costs, or they look at, I don't know what they do anyway. But as you're shopping, it's very difficult to make your choices because you don't know how much things cost. And quite often I'll pick something out, you know, and say, oh, I'll get one of these, one of these, one of those. You go up to the counter, it's like, whoa, that's expensive. It's like, had I known it was that expensive, I wouldn't have taken it from the shelf, you know. But it's not knowing what anything costs can be a bit of a problem. And I noticed that as soon as I arrived here in Port Dixon, I go into the shop, and it's like, oh, look, 1 ringgit, 150, 2, you know. I can see all the prices, and they're not always perfect. Like sometimes the price isn't accurate. They have a cash register and they scan everything, and the price that comes up will be higher than what's on the package. So they're not perfect, but they're in the ballpark. So it's kind of nice that you can see how much things cost. I really like that. It's a tiny detail, but it makes daily life a lot smoother. However, being here, there still are no opening hours, and that's another, you know, Planet Doug pet peeve. And I know, you know, in the places that I go, it doesn't matter. People know when stores are open, when restaurants are open, when they're not. This is just common knowledge, so there's no need to post hours. And I hesitate to talk about things like this because I often say that the reason I love hanging out in a place like Sumatra is just how chaotic and confusing and exciting life is. It's not organized, it's not regimented, it's not controlled the way life is in Canada, for example. So I always say that's why I like it overseas. I like this, you know, confusion and chaos. It makes life exciting and interesting. But at the same time, like here, I discovered this bakery, and it's like, oh, I got those curry puffs. I came back here like, you know, like a squirrel with a nut. I was so excited, just like, oh, they're gonna make a cup of coffee. Then I bit into those curry puffs, and it's just like, oh, so good, flaky pastry, nice filling. It was like so good. So I was so excited about going back to this place. So of course, you know, on a daily basis, I get all ready and I get my, you know, get dressed and I go out for a walk and I go down to the bakery. Closed. It's like, I don't know. So I go back the next day, closed, you know, and I don't know when they're open. And this happens to me all the time. Like this buffet restaurant, the first day I discovered it, I was so excited. It's like I had a really good meal there and I was going to go back the next day, but the next day they were closed. So it's like Russian roulette in terms of places being open or closed. And that's how it is in Sumatra. I got stuck all the time because every time I tried to go somewhere, the business would be closed and there was no way to find out when they would be open. You just have to guess. You just can't rely on it. There's no listing saying, you know, what days of the week and what hours they're open. It's just not that kind of a place. And you would think coming back to Malaysia, a little bit more organized here, obviously, than Sumatra. And I thought, oh, you know, okay, places might actually have regular store hours. But if they do, I'm not aware of them. I have no idea when anything here is open or closed. I just can't tell. You just basically have to take a chance. You know, you go there, and if they're open, they're open. If they're closed, they're closed. And for products too, you know, they might have curry puffs that day. They may not have curry puffs that day. You just don't know anything ever about when places are open, what they might be serving. So that is kind of surprisingly to me the same as my experience in Sumatra. And the level of English has been a surprise too, and I guess that's a reflection of where I am. Port Dixon, like I'm outside the big city, and I'm even outside of Port Dixon, you know, I'm in kind of a remoter area, I suppose. But in all the places where I've been going, like the bakery, I had a lot of trouble communicating with people because, again, in my head, I was thinking, oh, I'm on the ferry coming back to Malaysia. It's like, communication is going to be so much easier now because everybody's going to speak English. But that's not necessarily the case in an area like this. So yeah, inside the bakery, I had no idea what anyone was saying and I couldn't communicate with them. And yeah, so I was still dealing with the language barrier at the bakery, at the restaurants, at the shops. Nobody really speaks the English that I was expecting them to speak because it's Malaysia. So it's different from being inside Kuala Lumpur is what I'm saying. The level of English dropped off considerably, you know, being out here. Which, yes, understandable. Yeah, it makes sense. But one place that has all the bells and whistles of service, McDonald's. There is a McDonald's here in downtown Port Dixon. So I have ridden my bike. I've ridden my bike often. You know, I go downtown. I just go exploring on my bike. I haven't shot any video about any of these experiences, unfortunately. I'm still working on editing all the video I shot in my last weeks in Sumatra. And the thought, I mean, I really would love to record even this neighborhood on video because I find it so interesting, the slow process of arriving in a neighborhood, seeing nothing, and then over time you see it more and more clearly. It's like, oh yeah, there's even this very well-known Nonya food restaurant, a fancy place, really interesting place, also on this strip. So this pretty much got everything you might want, but it takes time to learn all these things, and you know, making a video about that for me personally would be interesting. It wouldn't set YouTube on fire, but sort of the things I'm interested in. But yeah, so I have been riding my bike all around this area. I go downtown all the time. I go to the ocean, like there's, you know, you're right on the ocean there, and you can get a cup of coffee and sit by the water. You know, it's all very nice. And there is a McDonald's there, so I've popped into the McDonald's. And there was one time I was there, and yeah, they have the big machines, which I love. I just love those machines, the big monoliths, and you can just use, you know, just touch the buttons in order to place your order. I love that so much. And then when I was there, I ordered an ice cream sundae. Just that's all I wanted was some ice cream. So I ordered an ice cream sundae, and I asked for a table delivery. You take the little thing that has the number on it, and you've got your receipt from the machine, and you go sit down at a table, and you put this big triangle thing with the number on it, and then they bring the order to your table. So I did that, and then my order never came. I was waiting and waiting and waiting. It was a little bit of a busy day, so I thought, oh yeah, okay, they're probably busy. They're taking care of all the big food orders first. A lot of drive-through, really crowded drive-through. And I thought, okay, then they're going to get to the sundaes and the one item. Like I even felt a bit weird asking for table service for one item, but looks like it's pretty easy for them to do, and it's not like I want to stand there at the counter waiting and waiting and waiting, for my order. So I thought, okay, table service, let's do it. But it never came. And then I wasn't quite sure what to do. To be honest, I was just going to get up and leave, because it's not like it's not like my life depended on getting a chocolate sundae. I just spotted the McDonald's and I thought, oh, you know what? Let's treat Planet Doug to some ice cream. But it's not so important to me that I want to get up and go to the counter and show them my receipt and talk about it, and oh no, I didn't get it, and it's just a hassle. If it's not going to show up, if it's not going to come, I'll just leave. No big deal. So I was just about to leave, but a woman who worked at McDonald's, who was walking around, I guess she saw me sitting there, and in the back of her mind, I guess she walked by me a few times. She's clearing tables and doing different things. And then I think something clicked in her brain. It's like, oh, that guy's been sitting there longer than normal. Like something weird is going on. So after a long time, because I said I waited for a very long time, she came up to my table and said in English, sir, have you received your order yet? And I said, no, I haven't. And she said, well, what did you order? And I showed her the receipt, just a chocolate sundae. And then she went off and got it for me. It's like, wow. I mean, that kind of initiative, that kind of awareness of her environment, noticing that a customer was sitting there with no food on their table for a long time, and figuring out that something was wrong, and then to take initiative. Wow, I love that. So that was amazing. Made me feel good. And I enjoyed my chocolate sundae very much. I suppose I have a couple of technology stories associated with Planet Doug and YouTube. And one is that I learned something new about the GoPro Hero 12, which is quite interesting to me, because in the past I was using the GoPro Media Mod. This is the Media Mod, and it is essentially a cage, and your GoPro Hero 9, 10, 11, or 12, they're all the same size and have the same design. So I have the Hero 9. So the Hero 9 can go into the Media Mod, and then that gives you a way to connect an external microphone that has a 3.5 millimeter jack, so you can plug in a microphone. But, and this is one of the biggest design features of the Media Mod, it also has a microphone built into it. That's this sort of big round thing here in the corner. And in theory, this microphone, it's a directional shotgun microphone, and in theory it is supposed to provide a much better quality audio than the built-in mics of the GoPro. I think you're still going to get better audio from any external microphone, like a Rode Video Micro or DJI wireless mic or Rode Wireless Go. Any one of those is still going to give you better audio, but this built-in microphone was supposed to mean you wouldn't need to use an external mic anymore, that this audio was supposed to be good enough, much better than the built-in mics. However, there was a huge problem with this microphone because it actually has two capsules, one pointing forward and one pointing behind. But the way it was designed, you can only use one of them at a time, which basically made it completely useless. Because in my life, if I'm walking around with the GoPro, I'm pointing it at me, and then I'm pointing it away from me, then I'm pointing it over there, and then over there, and then back at me. But of course, now the microphone is recording my voice, but if I turn the camera around, it's not anymore. You can't hear me because the microphone is pointing ahead. So it made it completely useless, and this was one of the many design flaws that I've been ranting and raving about when it comes to the Media Mod. It could have been a good product, but it was let down by their design choices. And it seemed like such a simple thing, because in the menu, you can go into the GoPro menu and you can choose, oh, let's use the front microphone. Okay, now let's use the rear microphone, or none of them. So you have 3 settings: none, front, or rear. But there was no setting for both at the same time, which is so obvious to me that that's what should have been done from the beginning. But with the Hero 12, I discovered this on a video from Danny Black. Danny Black makes YouTube videos about action cameras, I think, for the most part. He makes some really, really good videos. Very short, high energy, to the point kind of videos. And he posted a short video saying that he discovered with the Hero 12, the new GoPro, that in the Media Mod, there's a new setting that you can turn on both microphones at the same time. And they were supposed to have improved the audio dramatically as well. And if that were true, that would make the Media Mod far more valuable, that you could actually use this microphone, and that would be amazing. So yeah, that was good news. Though I must admit that when I watched his video, he did side-by-side comparisons between the Media Mod on the Hero 12 and the Media Mod on the Hero 11, and comparing the audio quality. And GoPro is saying that the audio quality has been much, much improved on the 12. And then Danny Black was saying the same thing, that, oh, it sounds so much better now on the Hero 12. But I'm not completely convinced, because as I was listening to the comparisons from a simple vlogging point of view, I kind of liked what I heard from the 11, right? I think the audio from the 12 was a bit more, is cleaner, more professional, less trebly, less sharp. And yet, all I really want is to be able to hear what the person says. And to my ears, the audio from the 11 was brighter and sharper and more trebly and louder. And then when he switched to the 12, a lot of the background noise disappeared. You heard mainly his voice, and it had more bass, like more low end. But to me, that kind of sounded a bit muddy and not as pleasing to me as the 11. You know, an audiophile, I think, would listen to them and go, oh, that sounds so much better, it's cleaner. And yet me, I just want to know what the person is saying. I don't want to have to strain or anything. So if it's loud and vibrant and sharp, I don't care if it's a little bit clipped or distorted or whatever the problem with it is. I don't need audiophile levels. I just need it to be audible. And somehow I kept listening to them, and I thought, okay, yeah, maybe the 12 is better. But then I changed my mind and go, actually, I kind of like the old audio on the 11 better, you know. So I kind of went back and forth. However, with the 12, you do get this option of having front and rear mics operating at the same time. And then it doesn't matter what you do with your GoPro. You can turn it around, and no matter how you hold your camera, both everything in front of the camera and everything behind the camera is being recorded when you use that setting. So that's a great thing. That's a big improvement. And of course, they didn't change the Media Mod. They made the change inside the GoPro. So in theory, I assume they could add this feature to all the other GoPros, like through a firmware update. They could add this capability to the 9, the 10, and the 11. But somehow, I don't think they're going to do it. At least they're not going to rush to do it because they want people to buy the new camera. So if they have these new features in the 12, that, you know, for me, it's like it gives me another reason. It's like, wow, it'd be really nice to upgrade to the Hero 12. That would be amazing. And this new Media Mod microphone feature is one more reason to upgrade. But if they give it to me on the 9 as well, that takes away the reason to upgrade. So I doubt GoPro was going to do it, though I assume that they could. I don't know that for sure, obviously, but it feels like it's just a firmware change. They could do a firmware update and add this capability to the 9, the 10, and the 11. But I doubt they will do it, but you never know. We shall see. Other technology thoughts? I have been thinking about 360 video quite a bit lately, because one of the videos that I edited from Sumatra recently, I shot the entire day using my Insta360 X3 camera. I didn't use my GoPro that day. I just shot everything with the 360 camera. So I was faced with editing that video, and wow, it's a chore. Reframing, I mean, the main problem is I shoot way too much video, obviously. I don't know, I feel like when I set off on my daily adventures, I just sort of record the entire day. So I'll end up with, you know, 3 hours of video, you know, in a normal day. And if you have 3 hours of 360 video, that will take you 2 days to reframe it. You know, it doesn't seem like it, but it will. The process is so painstaking because, you know, the videos might be 10-minute clips. So if you've got 3 hours, you know, so that's 6 10-minute clips per hour. That's 18 of these 10-minute clips, and each one you have to watch the entire video clip without doing anything. You just watch it and you keep moving the view around to kind of refresh your memory about what you filmed at that time and where the camera was pointing, and not where the camera is pointing, where you want the camera to point. So you have to watch the whole 10-minute video to refresh your memory about what you shot, and then you have to sort of pre-plan where the camera should be pointing when you're reframing. And so that after you've done that, then you stand up in the middle of the room like a doofus, you know, with your smartphone, and then you're reframing the video by playing the video, and then you move your phone around, you know, like you're a cameraman, you know, directing camera movements. So for a 10-minute video, reframing, I mean, reviewing it from beginning to end will take about 15 minutes. The actual reframing will take about 15 minutes. And then you have to export that, and that can take about 10-15 minutes to export it, and then you have to rename that file and copy it. So you're getting close to 1 hour of work to reframe one video clip. And if you've got 18 video clips, I mean, that could be 18 hours of work. If, you know, you wouldn't think so. You can go faster than what I just described, but quite often there's a little glitch. You know, the battery dies, like while you're doing this all day long, you know, the battery on your phone is going to die. So then you have to plug it in and recharge it and wait for it to recharge, and your memory card runs out of room and you got to replace it. You're you know, it's things happen. So yeah, you've got 18 separate video clips. It can take you 2 9-hour days just to reframe those video clips, and that's a huge time commitment for I mean, you get some benefit from it, but you start wondering, like, man, oh man, I like this, but is it worth it? And really it isn't. I think the 360 camera is more of a specialty tool. You want to do something fancy that you can't do with a normal camera, then you sort of do this fancy thing, and then you can add it into your video as B-roll or something. But to use it as a vlogging camera for long sequences, it adds to your workload considerably. And I did find the video was very dark. And then when I was editing the video later, it was like, oh man, that is so dark and gloomy. It isn't as bright as GoPro video. And You can only use the 360 camera, I think, on really bright sunny days, like as bright as possible you can do it. But if there's any kind of cloud, any kind of dimness to the sunshine, the final video is way too dark. And then I have to go into the color grading system on DaVinci Resolve, which I do not understand at all. And I'm trying to brighten it in different, it just takes forever. So that was also a little bit of a problem. So yeah, 360 cameras. I do love being able to reframe. It's fun. I enjoy the process. And when you're shooting video, you don't have to take your GoPro and physically aim it at things. You just walk down the street holding the stick and it films everything. And that means not only that you don't have to aim the GoPro, but you end up taking video of things that you probably wouldn't have the courage to film. Because for everyone, I mean, you feel a little bit uncomfortable pointing the camera at other people, you know, strangers on the street. I see someone pushing a cart that's selling satay padang. You know, Indonesians are very friendly people. They love being on camera, actually. So if you took your GoPro and you're like kind of waved at the guy and you filmed him as he's going past, that's fine. You can do it. But look what you're doing. You know, you're like looking at this guy and then you're, following him and aiming the camera at him the whole time. That takes a certain personality to be able to do that, and it takes energy to do it. But with the 360 camera, you just walk down the street, and if a guy goes by, you aim your camera at him while you're editing. You don't aim the 360 camera at him, you're just holding the stick up in the air, and then while you're reframing here in the privacy of your room, that's when I'm like following this guy. You don't have to do it at the moment. So you end up with a lot of video subjects that you probably wouldn't have gotten with a GoPro or any other camera. So that's an advantage as well. But the workload is it's no joke. Yeah, it really is no joke. And then the video quality is nowhere near as good as a GoPro. And if you zoom in at all, you quickly get to like 480p, 360p resolution. It's so pixelated, so it doesn't look very good. It's too dark, and yeah, a lot of problems for me with the 360 camera, even though I enjoy using it. It's a gorgeous day out there, by the way. You can't see it, but I can. I have a window here. I was just looking out the window. Windy today. I love windy days. And beautiful ocean, blue skies, clouds. Really nice weather today, though I think there's going to be a lot of thunderstorms in the afternoon. I think we're moving into the rainy season in this part of Malaysia. I guess the universe knows that I'm here. They're catching up to me, so I think the rain is on its way. But it has been raining a lot at night, heavy rains at night, and then sometimes in the late afternoon. But we shall see. But yeah, beautiful day out there today. And of course, I've also been watching the videos from Two Up and Overloaded. They are an American couple traveling around Java by motorcycle. In the last couple of videos, they've been dealing with extending their Indonesian visa. They got that drama all figured out. But then they rode their motorcycle to the coast, and they're taking a ferry from Java to Kalimantan. So they're going to Borneo now. And yeah, that's what the videos are about. I've seen one of them so far when they had a lot of trouble just figuring things out, which is understandable, like going to this big coastal Indonesian city, going to the harbor, and then just trying to find the boat, trying to figure out how to buy a ticket and things like that. They had to put a lot of effort into that. And they were only successful because finally there's an Indonesian man at the harbor who says, okay, I'll bring you there, I'll show you. Because I don't think they ever would have figured it out on their own. But they finally ended up at the office, and once they were there, things went more smoothly. And what I really enjoyed about their story, because I could relate to it so much, is that they went, not to spoil anything, but most people listening to my voice are probably not going to watch their videos, and if you do, just knowing a little bit about what happens in advance, I don't think it spoils it very much. But anyway, they go to get on the boat on the departure day, and they go there very early, and they had some issues, getting on board, getting their motorcycle on board, getting it stored securely, finding their bunk. They couldn't. They were too late to get a private room, so the whole boat was fully booked, and they weren't able to get like a private cabin or anything. I think they would have paid for one if they could get it, but there were none available. So they just basically bought a bunk in the open area, with all the other people. Everybody sleeps in the same giant room, basically. And then when they first got on there, they were pretty happy and pretty excited because the whole place was empty. There's like this big, long series of bunks. I mean, maybe lower ones and upper ones, I'm not sure, but I only remember seeing the upper ones. Very narrow beds, and there was nobody on the boat pretty much except for them. So they were able to just pick any bed they wanted. They got them right by the window, right by the air conditioner. There was a really loud TV, which always happens in these places, like just blasting annoying music. And since they were there all by themselves, they just sort of unplugged it. It's like, oh, thank goodness, they can get rid of the noise. So they were so happy that it was so easy going, and there was so much space and so much room. But then after they settled into their bed, and they're like, wow, this is amazing, they looked out the window, and hundreds of people were now pouring onto the boat. So all the other people, all the other passengers, now they were starting to arrive. And I think they're much nicer people than I am, too up and overloaded. But I've had this experience myself in the past many times. It's just sort of like being on an airplane and you get the whole row to yourself. There's like 4 seats and you're the only one in the whole row, and you're so happy. It's like, oh, thank goodness. But then you're watching people coming on board, and of course, suddenly you see these, a family, like big fat people with crying children, and they're coming down the aisle towards you. Like this sense of horror starts to overcome you. It's like, no, 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 no. And of course, those people sit down beside you, and you had that glimmer of hope of having the whole row to yourself, and then it's dashed, and you're sitting beside these crying, screaming children the whole journey, And for them, that happens all the time. And for them on the boat, they had that experience, where they got on the boat and it was like, wow, the whole boat is empty. This is going to be wonderful. But then hundreds of people came on and all the beds were taken. And I won't tell the rest of the story about everything else that happened. But as they told the story, they were pretty good-natured about it. Me on that boat, oh, that journey would have been a nightmare. I mean, it would have been good from a story to tell. I mean, that's why we go on these trips, because they're interesting and things happen and it's exciting and you have stories to tell. But at the same time, in their shoes, that boat ride would have been a nightmare. I mean, it would have been horribly uncomfortable, and you really couldn't wait for it to end in a way, after all those hundreds of people came on board and the reality set in, right? But anyway, I haven't finished that video yet, the second one where they were actually on the boat. I've only watched half of it, so I don't know how it ends, but I will find out soon enough. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see what they do on Borneo with their motorcycle and their visa situation. I mean, their 30-day visa now has got to be expiring pretty fast again, the 30-day extension. But I don't know what it means to go to Kalimantan. I guess they can cross the border into Malaysia, the Malaysian side of Borneo, and then they can kick off with a 90-day Malaysian social visit pass. So maybe that's what's going to happen. Maybe that's what they're planning to do. I'm not sure. Well, tons more stuff I could talk about, but I'll end today's behind-the-scenes video with just one other thing. I'm watching a TV show called Only Murders in the Building. I think this is season 3? Yeah, I think it's season 3. For me, it's not as good as season 1. Definitely season 1 was the best. Season 2 was okay, and season 3, it's different. I've talked about that already, you know, my problems with the plot of season 3 and how the story is put together. But I'm still watching it, season 3. And interestingly enough, one of the main characters, as played by Selena Gomez, she is making a podcast about their murder investigation. And in the last episode that I saw, she's using a GoPro. And not only was she using a GoPro, she was using a GoPro on a Jaws Flex clamp mount, which is my favorite mounting apparatus for the GoPro. So I'm always walking around with a Jaws, you know, and a GoPro sitting on top. And it was just so funny to me to see it in a big mainstream popular TV show. To see one of the characters, you know, walking around with a GoPro on a Jaws, you know. And it turned out it was kind of essential to the plot because they wanted to record something in secret. And of course, if you just have a GoPro, you know, you have a GoPro inside a media mod or something, and you want to put it in a room somewhere where you're recording in secret, you know, how do you put it somewhere? If you have a tripod, it's way out in the open, you know, and you can't really just sort of rest it anywhere because it's going to fall over and you can't angle it. But because they had my favorite mount, you know, the Jaws clamp, they could just run into the room and then they go over to the sink, you know, to the faucet, and just take the clamp and just sort of lock it into place, twist it, aim it in the right direction, sort of put a blanket over top of it to hide it or something, and then get out of the room. So anyway, it was just really funny for me to see the GoPro plus Jaws combination in, you know, a modern TV show like that. It was kind of funny. And I've seen other people doing the same thing. I've seen a number of travel vloggers with a GoPro on a Jaws Flex clamp. I was like, oh, because I don't remember seeing that before. It felt like I was the only person who used it, who recognized how useful it was for vlogging, because you can use it as a selfie stick. It's very easy to hold on to and film yourself, and you can attach it to so many different things. You know, it's a really handy grip for vlogging, and I never saw anybody using it before. I was the only one that I ever saw, but now it seems to be very common, and it's so common it's gone into Hollywood at the same time. That was kind of funny. Maybe I started the trend is what I'm saying. People watch my videos and they're imitating me. What do you think? I think no. I think not. But anyway. So that's it for this morning. My voice is starting to wear out. I've been talking so long. I think it was the long credit card story. It went on a lot longer than I thought. I'm going to have another cup of coffee, settle down for the day, and I have another video from Sumatra that I'm going to be editing today. And whichever video I post next, I will see you then. Have a good day wherever you are.